want to say a few words before we let the evening begin. I'm Beth Rogozinski, and I'm one of the co-founders of Transmedia SF, and we're really happy to have you all here tonight for our second meetup of the year. It's a Pitch Perfect event, and we're excited because this event actually follows on, let's see, is this working, Maya? There we go. This follows on a hackathon, a startup weekend that we had on the 1st of February, and we're super excited that two of our startup weekend graduates actually have made it into the pitch contest. So the idea of us being able to help companies kind of get their ideas together and formulate them, and then come to pitch in front of this esteemed panel of investors and entrepreneurial experts is really exciting for all of us here. So I thank you all for being here. And before I turn it over to our moderator, Jim, I just wanted to thank our sponsors. Lagunitas has been a great sponsor of ours, and they've actually left some swag out in the back. If anybody wants some Lagunitas posters or magnets, take them home. And I also wanted to thank the San Francisco School of Digital Filmmaking. That's whose home we are in tonight. And Jeremiah Birnbaum is the founder of this program and was going to say a few words. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Well, it's wonderful to see everybody here. Welcome, and we're always great to host a Transmedia happening. I just wanted to also let you guys know kind of a little bit of a teaser. We are just going to be launching kind of a soft launch next month, a partnership with our neighbors, The Hub. They're a co-work space for people that do social good, and we're going to be launching a Hub Media Lab that's going to be a co-work space for storytellers and media makers in this space. So kind of check out our website, which is filmschoolsf.com, and also check out the Hub website, and we're going to be kind of having more there, but it should be a really great kind of home base for storytellers and media makers and transmedia folks. So I wanted to let you guys know. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremiah. And Jeremiah and some of his team, Jesse, are you around? Will be around later if you want to ask some questions about the great new program that's happening.
And we have lots of filmmaking classes too.
Oh yes, it is the School of Digital Filmmaking. They do have filmmaking classes as well. And actually, I know that there are some alum here in the room, so you can actually even chat with them. Okay, so at this juncture, I'm actually just going to turn this over to our colleague, Jim Myrick. Jim has been working with us at Transmedia SF for a long while, and we've asked him to moderate this panel with us. I'm going to be the timekeeper up front here, so the hated timekeeper for our panelists. But Jim has actually had a lot of experience both as an entrepreneur and in capital formation, and ran an accelerator himself back in the day, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that and introduce our panelists. So thanks everyone for being here.
Thanks, Beth. Okay, we're going to have a fun evening tonight. We're going to keep it real fast-paced. I've been in your guys' shoes in the past pitching to investors, so I know what it's like, so we want to keep it nice and friendly. There's no winners and losers. We're all winners here tonight. And in particular, we want to learn and share from everybody's experience. So while you're watching people present, be informative for you as well. I myself have started a number of ventures, as Beth has mentioned. Many of them with brands, including Hello Kitty and Snoopy. We did early learning for children. Just most recently did some products with SpongeBob SquarePants. So if we have questions about branding, we're going to be talking about a class coming up in the future that we'll be doing this month on licensing and branding. So I'm going to turn it over to the panelists. We want them to explain their background a little bit so we know what kind of questions we can ask them and also have their point of view. So we'll start, I think, with Joyce, right? In terms of just a brief introduction of them.
Hello everybody, my name is Joyce Reitman. I'm very, very happy to be here. I guess my credentials come from, I founded 5 companies in Silicon Valley, over the first one in 1983, and something called contract manufacturing before they had the word outsourcing. And grew that company to about 650 employees and 3 high volume factories, and sold it to a company called Sanmina, which was a multi-billion-dollar competitor. So then we come up to about 1998, and it was the height of the .com, and I founded a company called Miadora, which was a pioneering company in e-commerce selling jewelry online. It was a passion of mine, and Sequoia Capital funded that company and presented to Mike Moritz, and it's got some good memories for me there. The next company I did was in healthcare, and you'll start to see a pattern that there's no pattern. So the healthcare company was, I actually was sitting around the dinner table one night and said, oh, now what am I going to do? And my son says, oh, Mom, what about online therapy? So I said, oh, okay, well, I know some psychiatrists, so I think I'll give that a go. And researched that and vetted it through and came up with diagnosis and treatment of mental health on the internet, and sold that a little bit later to a company in Boston that had psychiatric hospitals. Then I did another company in now business process outsourcing in the healthcare space and made a deal with Aetna. And then I did a fashion company, because I love that too, and had a showroom in New York, manufacturing and design. I've also been an advisor to the National Science Foundation and worked with about 23 companies there in medical device, software, material science. I have no idea why they gave me all those different, but there's some similarities in how do you launch a company and how do you pick a good business model. And then full disclosure, I am associated with Hero Local as their first investor, so I will recuse myself from judgment on any of that. So that's about the story of me. I'm at JP Morgan now as a banker. Don't ask me how I got there, but I know how I got there. I have a friend who's the head of mobile payments for all of JP Morgan Chase, and he thought that might be a good idea for me. So, so here I sit. So.
How convenient. It looks like you subscribe to the same philosophy that I do, which is yes and. But you know, it's kind of fun for me to be here in this spot because I've been obsessed with storytelling my whole life. But being sort of a firstborn brown kid, if I told my parents that I became a filmmaker, they would have looked at me a little bit funny. So I hedged. So what I did was instead, while I was in the tech community, I helped start something called the Film Angels, which was an angel network to invest in independent film. And I see some familiar faces from that community here as well. And that was really, you know, for me, because one, I was obsessed with storytelling, and I also love the idea of actually using film as a way to sort of tell stories that hadn't been told before, specifically around causes. That just happens to be a personal interest of mine. My official background, if I look at there, yeah, so let me talk about those. So my day job is I'm a partner at a venture fund called CMEA Capital, where I tend to be the web digital media software guy. Most of my companies started off with names like placeholder name because we had no idea what they were going to be when they grew up, but we knew they were awesome people and we didn't give a shit. So, and that's kind of been my philosophy and sort of my pattern matching over time. Before CMEA, I worked with a guy named Guy Kawasaki, who's a pretty prolific dude in the Valley and talks and tweets more than I've ever seen. And he had something called garage.com, which was, I guess, started off as an internet marketplace to get money and entrepreneurs together, became the first incubator in the Valley, then became a venture fund. And that's how I was judoed into the venture business. It's from that path. In the meanwhile, I do lots of other things. I help teach at the design school at Stanford occasionally in the Liberation Technology program. I've been really active around social good. I love the fact that I'm so close to the hub. It's awesome because I actually think some of those entrepreneurs are the most impressive people that I know. So we, as part of that, one of the other things that I've been doing around the world is, so I grew up in Pakistan. I moved to the Valley to come to college, and but I had this funny opportunity where I basically wrote, a friend of mine actually asked me to come speak at a conference in Dubai about the entrepreneurial community there like 5 years ago. I wrote about it, I came back. Turns out I wrote about this thing called Why the Arab World Needs Heroes. That was the name of the article. And about 3 weeks later, the Arab Spring started. And so the guys at the State Department thought that I knew a lot about the Middle East, which was pretty hilarious. I found myself in this very strange position of talking about the political implications of social media the day Mubarak stepped down in Egypt, and I was in the State Department. And it was a crazy day, but net of it is, since then, I heard Startup Weekend, you know, I've been flown off to places like Alexandria in Egypt to host Startup Weekends, post-revolution. I've been spending a lot of time with delegations. We just met the president in Turkey and a bunch of entrepreneurs out there. Been in Malaysia, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Hong Kong, it's Pakistan. I've been doing it the last couple of years. It's just been this cool thing where I get to connect with people. And by the way, some of those Startup Weekend guys, I found out later on, moved to the Valley after some of those conversations. Came back to me that some of my CEOs were saying, hey, you know this guy Marwan, he's pretty awesome. I was like, wait a minute, I think I remember him. He's like a 19-year-old kid in Egypt, and he found a way to move out here. Was then figuring out that he became a hot commodity in the Valley because he was super smart, and he had his own company from YC. And anyway, it was pretty awesome to see like that come full circle. And I suspect I'll see a lot of you guys as well, although your trip won't be as far. But I'm pleased to hear from you, and I'm excited to hear what all you guys are up to and how I can help.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany Hopkins. Let's see, I also started as an entrepreneur, so I've started up 3 companies, 2 in e-commerce, and 1 as a socialization and monetization platform for games. Then I kind of moved into strategy work and worked with both governments and major media and telecoms companies in emerging economies. And these were basically projects to help spur growth in the technology sector when it was for governments and help move into new regions for these kind of big, slow-moving companies. So I spent a lot of time thinking about how to make money in hard places to make money. This is, how do you sell data packages to people that make a couple dollars a day? How do you make that accessible to people? After I did a bit of starting companies, did a bit of strategy work, I decided I wanted to help new companies come up with these ideas on their own. How do you make a company really stand on its own 2 feet? How do you get funding? How do you make sure you keep your revenue going over time? And so now I'm started a company called NoBox, and we help companies find funding. And my main client right now is Groupie, and that's a crowdfunding website that you've never heard of because it's only in South America. And what we're doing is, the normal crowdfunding thing. You go out, you find all your friends and family, make sure that they give you your $5. But the really important part is finding corporate sponsors or big names that want access to these communities that people with smart projects have, and finding backers for these projects that are major companies or big brands. So it's kind of a new take on crowdfunding, and I think it might be something that makes sense for a lot of art, music, transmedia projects. So I'm excited to talk about that with all of you here.
Hi, I'm Fry Lindebaum. I'm a recovering entrepreneur. So I am a recovering entrepreneur, actually out of the digital media space, where this building's here. Formed and ran a company all through the late 80s and 90s called Broadcast Production Group. Actually have someone here in the crowd that worked with me back then, which is great. And then sold that into the .com era and became a venture capitalist. That's what they do. If you win, they give you that title and make you work harder. And our firm is in Silicon Valley. We're the early money folks. We're the ones that go in at the very early stages of companies' growth. We get behind them, we help them grow. We invest in digital media. We're one of the few that have been doing that all along the line. We invest in mobility communications as well as some internet environments as well. Some of the companies we have you might have heard of are esports, iLive, Corvigo, Uba Beverage Group, a very cool upcoming video game called Band Fuse that'll be coming out, which is truly transmedia, music, video, entertainment, all in a monetized way. So this is a very exciting time to talk to you. Crowdsourcing, crowdfunding is becoming a new environment. My business, venture capital, is in upheaval because there's so many different ways that you all can tap the capital without coming down and, driving down to Silicon Valley and telling us why you should be funded. So it's an exciting time, and we're looking forward to seeing the pitches today.
Great. Okay, so we're going to start off with the presenting companies. We have 5 companies tonight. Each one is going to stand up and give us a 5-minute presentation about their idea, their business model, and their concept. And then we're going to have 5 minutes of questions and answers from the panel. When we're all done with the presenting companies, we'll have time afterwards for questions as well. So, is Marshall first?
Libby.
Okay, very good.
I made a storm detector that would detect a hurricane or any bad weather. I invented a safer football helmet. I invented a robot companion and assistant.
So, this is the City X project. As you can see, this is a video from some of our first tests of this workshop that we did back in December. And basically what we're doing is we are putting together a story that helps educators take new technologies into the classroom in a meaningful way. So, oops. Okay, there we go. So our focus with these first technologies is 3D modeling and 3D printing. And some of the objectives with this are to teach about design thinking, empathy, and cultural exploration. And then eventually we want to see how we can use these tools in the Common Core curriculum that are used every day in classrooms. So we're working with 8 to 10-year-olds, which means we need to find a way to get them excited. So we, a couple weeks ago at the Transmedia Startup Weekend, began working on the story for this project. We've been testing the technologies in the classrooms, but how do we really get the kids engaged? So we're doing that with this right here. This is the map of City X, and the story is that we have found a habitable planet, and our colonization ship has gone off, they've landed, and the settlers have sent back this map. There are 32 different characters here, and throughout the course of a week-long workshop, the kids use the design process to develop solutions for these different characters. These solutions can then be 3D printed using our 3D printers. This is the picture here. And then all of those pieces are put together in a puzzle. And so far we've run this workshop with about 300 kids. And what we love about 3D printing is that and 3D modeling is that it's a tool that can be used anywhere by anyone, and it doesn't require a common language. So what we got really excited about is how can we actually use this to get kids all around the world working together on the same thing. So our next step is taking the City X project and testing it. Oops, I don't think that's supposed to be there. Testing that in 8 cities around the world. So we are going to be starting this in March. We're going to be working with 256 kids and see how do kids in different places, in different cultures, actually interact with these tools. And using that, we're going to be developing 3 things. The first is a free and open workshop that any educator can run so that they can do this week-long workshop in their classrooms, maybe just by borrowing a printer from a Fab Lab or something like that. The second is a game that we'd like to work with. We're talking to researchers at MIT and University of Wisconsin to develop Common Core curriculum based on these technologies. And then the third is an interactive art installation that is actually going to take, there it is, it is actually going to take all of these 256 models that we're going to be getting from these 8 different cities so that we can really get people looking at them and seeing what are kids capable of creating with these tools. So these are the various transmedia components of our project. We have classroom workshops, there's going to be an online platform and game that we're developing, and the installation, and then of course the 3D models. And we're going to be doing this through a nonprofit called IdeaCo. This nonprofit is all about connecting communities around the world, particularly through education. So because we have a nonprofit that's sponsoring this project, we're primarily going to be funding the research and development through corporate sponsorships and grants. So year one is basically going out and doing things like testing in these 8 different cities, and then developing the curriculum. And from that, we're going to be able to have a variety of ongoing sustainable things that we can offer to schools and educators to continue raising funds for this nonprofit, including training services. They're not all coming up here, but also affiliated products through 3D printing, and then also licensing our workshops to for-profit companies and camps and things like that. And basically, what we want to do is help kids learn that they have the tools and the capability to really contribute to creating these new ideas, and that technology doesn't just have to be a screen, and that they can engage in many different ways.
Great.
Thank you.
You didn't say how much money you're raising.
We're raising $300,000 for the initial research and development.
Anyone want to start? Jess?
So how are you going to know when CityX is successful?
When CityX is successful? That's a great question. So, like I said, with these first 8 cities, we're just going out there and we're taking what we know about the technology and how kids interact with that, and we're continuing to test it, continuing to iterate this workshop. And then after we understand these basic tenets of how the story works and how the tools work internationally, then we're going to be teaming up with professional researchers to help us develop various metrics so we can really make sure we're doing this in a way where we can track what the kids are learning.
So that was almost there, but I was sort of looking for an outcome. What's your deliverable that you know that you're being successful?
Our deliverable will be the 3 things that I listed. So there's the workshop. We would see educators actually collaborating with their Fab Labs to run this workshop. There's the game. We would actually have this game available online for kids to be playing or for educators to be incorporating into their curriculum. And then there's the installation.
Do you have any idea yet what kind of cities or which places you'd want to start with?
We have some ideas. That's one thing we'd love help with, is connecting with teachers and educators around the world to start with these cities. We have connections in a variety of countries, but nothing is set in stone yet. So we actually have an application on our website right now for anybody who's interested. Or if you can connect us with teachers, please do that. It's cityxproject.com.
What does it take for a teacher to get started in a new place? You guys can hear me, right?
With the workshop?
Yeah, so like what's the kit, right? So especially, so you were mentioning, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if I'm doing stuff internationally, how does one get going? And to me it speaks to the question of how does this scale?
Right. So that's what we're talking about with this workshop toolkit, is right now we're learning how to do this. And we're doing it just with 3 facilitators, we're a 3-person team, and a couple of 3D printers that we're going to be traveling with, and the cartridges, and then a few computers. But a teacher can just do this in their school's computer lab. All of the software that we're using is free, and it's super simple for kids to use. And like I said, we've found, so far we've really been just doing this by collaborating with local organizations and Fab Labs. So we found that the Fab Labs have been super supportive in letting us use their printers and are just excited to get kids using these tools. So I would hope that once we put out all the documentation on how we've done this, that would be pretty easy for educators to replicate in their own classrooms.
When you first started talking, you just mentioned that the goal is to get technology in the classroom. It sounds to me like though it's more specific to sort of 3D thinking and
Yeah,
that
so
kind of plasticity.
it's not necessarily about getting technology in the classroom. It's about understanding that technology is there to enable us to be creative. Our economy is based on innovation. and our education system is not. So we are trying to find a way to take new tools into the classroom in a way that shows kids that you can use these to be creative, to come up with new ideas. It's really important to us to not just see 3D printers continuing to be displayed in a classroom with a stock model being printed. Because, yeah, that introduces kids to a new idea, but it doesn't show them what they can do with it. And that's what we really need kids to be learning.
Great, so very good job, by the way, pitching. You've got a lot out in a very short period of time, so congratulations. So not to be the money guy on the panel here for a minute, but just to ask you a real question is, so if I'm an investor and I invest in your company, what is our return on investment? Because a big part of being able to make this pitch and this concept work is being able to articulate what is a return on investment. Now, I understand you said training services, but could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So as I said, we're a nonprofit. So with corporate sponsors, depending on what they're getting in return, a large percentage of that is tax deductible. We're also, with some of the companies we're talking to, there are various exclusivity agreements that are beneficial to them. And in terms of the training services and the other things, those are more revenue generators for the nonprofit. So we're not looking, as an investor, you're going to be, investing in this nonprofit. It's going to be more of a donation-based thing or a sponsorship.
Right. Investment, donation,
Yeah.
the wide berth. That being said, I think it's a very valuable tool, and I can imagine that with the revolution of 3D printing, there's a great opportunity for that. And I think that if you do need small amounts of early capital, places like Rocket Hub, Kickstarter are all great ways to get people to put $2, $3, $10, $50, $100 in and help you get into that pivot mode where you'll be able to get to the corporate sponsors.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Great. Great. No? All right.
Okay. Our next presenter.
Hi, my name is Malcolm Lombardi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Here at Local, and I'm going to share a quick video with you to give you a taste of what Here at Local is all about.
Facebook app that offers a direct fan booking platform for independent musicians. Get Booked allows fans to arrange and book house concerts directly from the artist's Facebook page. What's a house concert? It's a concert in a house, or an apartment, or a backyard, maybe even a car, or a rooftop. It can be just about anywhere, really. All it takes is a band, some fans, and a plan. Get Booked handles all the rest. Fans go to an artist's Facebook page, click to book a house concert, choose if they'll pay themselves or crowdfund it and invite all their friends to chip in. Then they make an offer, pick a date, and send it off. Since artists can suggest their own prices and payments are handled online in advance, once things are funded and confirmed, there's nothing to do but enjoy the show.
Great, so now that you have a sense of what Here at Local is all about, I'd love to get a little bit more in depth. And we're going to pull up a PowerPoint in a minute. So basically, what Here at Local is, it's a new marketplace for live music experiences. So we make it really easy for anyone to discover, hire, and even crowdfund musicians for any occasion. Great. So we currently have over 3,000 musicians on our platform in over 20 cities. And we're really excited about all of the support we've had and the buzz that we're getting in the media since we launched our Facebook app in late October. And the market opportunity is huge because, let's face it, everyone loves a good party. And the best way to jazz up a party is through live music. And so currently, in the US, we're spending billions of dollars every year hiring musicians for weddings, corporate events, and really, fundraisers, all kinds of parties. And until now, there hasn't been a really easy way to discover musicians that are reliable and to really understand how much it costs and what the process should look like. So that's where Here at Local comes in. We're there to simplify that process. And our model works because we allow musicians to tell their stories and inspire bookings across multiple platforms. We have a multi-platform approach. So you can discover musicians to hire for your events through our platform here at Local, through Facebook, using our Facebook app, and very soon across several partner sites and artist websites as well, using a new booking widget that we're getting ready to launch. And to give a real life example of how Here at Local is working, one of our newer musicians who signed up on Here at Local a couple months ago, Emily Rath, incredibly talented local musician. She's now been booked for 3 house concerts, a major corporate event, and a major fundraising event just in the last couple of months alone. So these are gigs, paying gigs that she wouldn't have access to otherwise. And the way that we make money is through a booking fee. So for every booking that takes place through our platform, we take a booking fee. And we're excited that a good 20% of our musicians who are using our Facebook app are getting booking offers. And so according to our current booking, or our current rate of bookings, we know that we need around 50,000 musicians on our platform to hit profitability, and we're looking to hit those numbers in the next year. So to date, we've raised a $300,000 angel round, and we've kept that round open, and we're now looking to add another $100,000 to $200,000 to that round, and that will really help us accomplish 3 key milestones. The first one being bringing on 25,000 new musicians onto our platform. Number 2, to launch our mobile app. And number 3, it's to launch our booking widget. And this booking widget will be used across several partner sites and on all of our artist websites. So that's Here at Local in a nutshell. I think my time's just about up. So thanks again for giving me this opportunity to present, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you tell me a little about your team? And since we're running low on time, I'll tell you this is a leading question to understand if you see yourself as a technology company, as a marketing company with great connections, or...
Yes, fantastic. So let me actually move to 2 more slides. I wasn't able to get that, but that's it. So here's my team. So we have a really great team. My business partner is our CTO, and he's our technology guy. He's been at the intersection of music and technology for 20 years now. He's worked at music venues and has been a singer-songwriter for 20 years as well. So he really understands the needs of musicians in the music industry. My background, for 8 years right out of school, I worked for and then ended up running a really great organization called Investor Circle, which is a network of angel investors who invest in socially responsible and high social impact companies. So I was essentially a matchmaker during that time, finding great companies and working with all of the entrepreneurs to get funding. So, I'd say, to answer your question, we really need to be both sides of the equation. We need to be really marketing savvy, and that's how we've been able to reach out to so many users and musicians. But our platform is very complex in that it's a new marketplace that enables crowdfunding.
Are most people on your platform full-time musicians?
That's a very good question. So what we're finding right now is most musicians are not full-time musicians. And so what we're finding is about 10% of them really are. And it's the 10% of independent musicians that are full-time and making it as full-time musicians. They're the ones doing the most number of house concerts. And so that's really what we're pushing right now, and helping musicians leverage their existing fans for house concerts and game gigs.
So can you talk about that? Because it strikes me that if you can make them full-time musicians, you win.
Yes.
Right? And the other part of this to me is, how do you promote them? How do you make them successful and go from part-time to full-time to hopefully American Idol or wherever else they want to go?
Sure, absolutely. So I do see Here at Local as an incredible, okay, so the first really important thing to know is that most musicians that are really serious about their music, they don't necessarily have marketing and biz dev experience. And so what we're really focused on is helping musicians to provide those musicians with the right tools to help them leverage their existing fans. So the way that the system works right now, or the model for the independent music industry, there's very few music venues in any given city. And so you really get tapped out pretty quickly once you start playing at those music venues. But most musicians have hundreds, if not thousands and hundreds of thousands of fans. So if you can turn all of those fans' homes into venues, and that could lead to being full-time musicians, playing every night of the week, and that's actually happening right now.
Okay, so I think it's a great space. We've actually seen a lot of companies doing different kinds of things in sort of associated industries, so I think you're certainly really onto something. And so then I won't be as nice now, so I'll ask you hard questions, which is, it's always great and then when you've got great traction and you're winning, but tell me about this, how you handle a situation where something goes wrong. How do you handle it when I go in and I book a musician for my very important party and their car didn't start, or they didn't get out of bed that day, or they were one too many beers away from your party, or something like that. So talk to me about how you handle that, because I think the greatest companies in the world are judged by how they handle the difficult situations.
So this is something that we are really focused on right now. Fortunately, we've run into very, very few issues like this so far, but as we scale, and we're in 20 cities now, when we get into 100 cities, we need to be prepared for this. And so the way it works right now is I and my team, we make ourselves very available to the musicians and to the hosts. We do a good job through automated messages and automated means to connect them multiple times before the event and on the day of the event. And that really helps reduce any kind of confusion around when the artist should arrive. We're very interested in building out a concierge service as well. And so to have someone online and available to handle any potential issues that come up.
A great example for this would be like the Airbnb moment that happened about a year and a half ago, right? Where it's sort of, okay, it's a great platform, it makes a ton of sense, and then something goes horribly wrong, and it becomes this huge sort of press swirling event. And just thinking about, in your case, the scope of how wrong it could go is actually kind of fun to think about. It could be pretty epic, but it strikes me that having that infrastructure in place is going to be super important for you, right? Not just your time.
Yes.
But, and not even just like messages back and forth, but is there a concept of an insurance policy? Is there a concept of sort of other things?
Right, the answer?
Yes. So at this early stage of our development, we've gone above and beyond working with really great law firm, Pillsbury, but then terrific to work with, to make sure that we are as protected as possible at this stage in terms of making sure that the liability is not on us. And when the artist signed the contract, when the host signs the contract.
Wrong answer. Don't shift blame, fix problem. So the question, like insurance policy or backup solution, or is there a second choice available on short notice? You might want to think through some of those as opposed to the duck and cover, because if your customers aren't happy, they don't come back and they tell their friends. And that's a surefire way to really curtail your business quickly.
Yes, good feedback. Thank you.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to give you a hard time.
So we're going to start with a 1-minute video. Could you please re-wrap it to the beginning? Thanks.
Proposition 8 would legally define marriage between a man and a woman.
This is a big deal, because if you can take the rights away from one community, what stops you from taking rights away from another community?
Vote no on 8. They're gone.
You know, like I've been raising all this money, but I wanted to go to ads that are going to work, and that's what's so frustrating.
Is it a civil rights issue that is akin to separate drinking fountains?
No, I don't think it is at all.
When you see people out there yelling and cheering over trying to take your rights away, it's so personal and it's so painful.
Maybe we're ready to demand full equal protection of the law, civil rights at a national and a federal level.
I'm saying if they don't give us our liberty, we're going to split this state in half. Equality!
The time is now. I think it's so important. I don't know how you could just sit this one out.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll bring our PowerPoint up for the campaign. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Mark Smolowitz. I'm a producer, director, and executive producer based here in San Francisco, a more than 20-year veteran of the documentary space. I'm here tonight to talk to you about our pitch for Kristen Herring's film, The Campaign. You know, by way of background, my sweet spot is actually building infrastructure around documentaries. So I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's sort of not just a way that I sort of, you know, execute my labor of love, but it's also how I make money. So it's sort of the frame that I want to put this presentation around for you tonight. Next slide, please. So The Campaign is currently a documentary that is at Fine Cut. It's funded by ITVS, which is the independent television service. So we are, you know, in line to be on PBS later this year. What I'll tell you about The Campaign is that it is a film about Proposition 8 and same-sex marriage. And for those of you who were here in 2008, you know, and lived through that campaign, it was really a national tipping point for this very important civil rights issue. It's really not been the same since. Our film does a beautiful job of telling personal stories of people who were involved on the ground during that campaign. But then it also is embedded with this beautiful historical archival timeline, which really looks at the argument that has been sort of articulated against same-sex marriage since the 1960s. Next slide, please. I'm here tonight, since this is a Transmedia Pitch Fest, to talk to you about our outreach, engagement, and interactive components. So the campaign that we will develop around the film, The Campaign. And what I'll say about that is that, you know, nowadays you can't really execute on the promise of a documentary and connect with your audience if you don't have a transmedia component. So this is really about unleashing our market and connecting with our audience. And this year, in 2013, Prop 8 and DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, are both being argued before the Supreme Court next month. And so we are about to enter into an unprecedented opportunity whereby our film, which will have a national release, can be a partner in a national conversation on one of the most important social issues of our time, which is LGBT civil rights and same-sex marriage. Next slide, please. Our technology partner is a company called Exegene, and we're currently in discovery with them. And what we're building is actually inspired from the timeline that you will experience in the film. So that 50-year story that I'm talking about in our film will actually be the springboard for this beautifully interactive set of tools that we're going to build together with Exegene. Next slide, please. So the concept of a timeline is really articulated here in the director's own office. That's Christy, she's my producing partner. She's helping me, we're making this film together. And so when you are making art, you put art up on the walls. So it's very much like building out a technology idea in much the way that we are with Exegene. So I wanted to share that image with you. Next slide, please. So the idea is to actually build our own timeline on the backbone of Facebook's own timeline. So all of us around the world are interacting with Facebook every day. And huge brands like Coca-Cola are using timeline in interesting ways to encourage people who use the product to share content. We're going to do the same on the backbone of timeline to get people to share their stories, their photos, their videos, their personal archives about their connection point with the cause of same-sex marriage. The next slide, please. These slides kind of show you how people interact with Timeline around the major brand Coca-Cola. Next slide, please. How people can comment and share videos. Next slide, please. This one is from Harley Davidson. It shows how historical information can be brought into a conversation with current events, which is really what we're attempting to do here. I'll wrap up just a moment. Next slide, please. We'll keep going here. I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to keep going. Sorry, I'm bound too many slides. I just want to get to our 5 minutes went past. The next one. Number 7. So we're inspired by StoryCorps. And the phase 2 of our Timeline experience will be built out into a series of apps, one for iPhone and one for iPad. These are characters from our films, and the idea is that people will get to share their stories from anywhere using a smartphone and a tablet. And that's sort of the spirit of what we're building out together. And I can answer questions about the business model and the funding model as part of the question and answer period. Thank you.
Great.
It would be the trailer.
So what's the business model?
There you go. Well, outside the fact that Campaign Productions is an LLC on one side of the house, and then fiscally sponsored by the San Francisco Film Society on the other side of the house. So we can take contributions. We're talking with brands like Gap Inc. To get involved in this kind of outreach, engagement, interactive component of the release of the film. This cause is on the hearts and minds of many in America right now, so I'm sure we'll be able to kind of engender a lot of not-for-profit style support as we endeavor to develop this. On the for-profit side of the house, I think there's a lot of nuance to that. On the one hand, we could sell the apps. They could be a price point on the iPhone and the iPad. We're not opposed to that. We want to keep the barrier low to entry because we want people to use the apps. One of the things I love about apps is that nowadays people can sort of see stories nearby. And so I think with this kind of cause, like for example with sharing audio content, people may still not want to show their face when they're talking about the subject of gay marriage. They may actually want to explore a point of view or a series of ideas from their personal experience, or even respond to something in the news. And this kind of app could allow them to do that and realize that they live in Mississippi or Alaska or Maine or some remote rural area and actually still feel safe enough to engage. So the nuances of the business model are, hopefully going to be guided by people like yourself who can help us how to create a sustainable, scalable experience in technology that is a win for the socially responsible goals that we're trying to achieve. I think that we can have ads against this content. We can have brands against this content. What I know for sure is that we have this huge national opportunity. We have a film that will air on PBS. We have a film that will likely do very well at film festivals. And there aren't very many films that sort of stand alongside a national conversation at the Supreme Court level. So this is a very exciting year to be filmmakers working on a film of this topic.
It looks like you have a really powerful film here.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, you also have a great way to get people to engage and share their experience. When I walk out of a movie like this, I tend to want to do something.
Exactly.
What have you done to, facilitate people taking action, helping to make change, the future?
Yeah, so, wrapping a documentary around call to action infrastructure is also something that I know a lot about. And the big piece there is partnerships. Okay, so we are poised as the campaign to have, already in place some very powerful national partners that are working on these issues. The challenge that we face, that I'll share with you, is the fact that we're also a PBS film. And when you are poised to air on PBS, you're supposed to be making a film for broad and diverse audiences that may or may not agree with you. So we're interested in also thinking about that, okay? And I understand that not everyone in this room may agree with me around, my posture with respect to same-sex marriage. So you are actually an important audience for us to be talking to and listening to, and to understand how we can create conversation with you and not ignore you, but actually help move us all along. And I think partnerships are going to be a big part of that.
Yes, truly a very important film to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw a stat today which is very relevant here, which is 3.5% of the American population actually identifies as LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
So what that says to me is as opposed to looking for a singular investment model, doesn't it make sense to bring this out into the crowdfunding environment, places like Kickstarter, Idea-Go-Go, etc., and really making this a national cause celeb, so to speak, where the $1, $2, $5, $10 donations goes a lot further than just making that donation. It supports a worthy cause. Have you started the process of looking into those models and starting to build around those and just trying to understand the focus there?
Yeah, I mean, I myself have executed a number of successful campaigns on Kickstarter and Indiegogo around my film project so far. I was an early convert in that space and know how to do it. And filmmakers come to me and I help them execute them. So it's absolutely a natural place for us to go, and we've been there. Christy executed an Indiegogo campaign that was very successful during the making of the film. So we know how to do that. I think that what we're trying to figure out is where are the big chunks of money that can get on board this kind of thing. I mean, initially our budget looks like $75K. Because we are a PBS project, we're actually in line for some substantial not-for-profit funding that is promising. So this is a good place to be. But I think that coming to this sort of event is about opening up our opportunities, sharing the idea, seeing what folks like you in Silicon Valley sort of have to say about it. I think that this idea of socially responsible investing, I mean, this is an app that could potentially be an experience that matters for many Americans. And so the kind of, virality of that could be a very interesting thing to see how it unfolds.
So I have a question about momentum.
Yes.
How are you building momentum and sustaining it?
That's a very good question. So we have three sort of moments that we've identified. The first is March 26th and 27th, when the cases of Prop 8 and DOMA will be heard at the Supreme Court. Then the announcements around the decisions, which will be sometime during June, we're told, during LGBT Pride Month, which should be interesting. And then the actual air date of the film on PBS, which we're not sure when that will be. It will be sometime later in 2013. So those three sort of tropes in our calendar this year are kind of what we're organizing around. In March, we're doing a social media campaign, which is countdown to March 26th, where we're going to engage with our core audience and begin to test the waters of engaging with our partners to let them know that this is coming soon. And then we have a very clear timeline that starts in April with Exigy to begin developing this tool, building it out, testing it, prototyping it, and hopefully, the plan is to really be live with something that builds on Facebook and also has the mobile and tablet experience well before the air date on PBS, so the PBS offering can actually take advantage of those tools.
And are you planning on building brand with this, or?
Well, I think, when I am developing a documentary, especially at this stage, I kind of feel like I'm developing a brand, not just a film, and I really treat the project as an enterprise. So the campaign, we hope, will take on that sort of life of its own. And, our resources are limited, but our acumen is strong. And so I think that, we have the ability to let the campaign sort of take on its own shelf life that way. Part of what we hope to do in social media is sort of curate our way through the conversation, be more of a convener and really kind of, let people glom onto our brand, the campaign, to then have the discussions that they want to have, share the stories they want to have, and just sort of participate in almost in an unbranded way. Because what we've noticed is that many of the marriage equality organizations are siloed from one another. They're not sharing content all that easily. For whatever reason, they're not politically doing that as much as some other social causes out there. So we can insert ourselves, I think, helpfully as a film in that opportunity and challenge to sort of help them seize the momentum. It'll be very interesting to see how this year unfolds and how our film can take advantage of momentum.
Great.
I have a quick change.org petition platform perspective. This is like a perfect project.
Sure.
And the other one is Upworthy. I don't know if you know
Upworthy?
that.
That's a new one for me.
They're awesome. They're sort of in the business of blowing up content that matters, right? And having it go viral. And they're actually interested in looking at docs as a new content.
Sweet, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, the fifth and final company.
No.
Oh, one more. Fourth and final company. Got ahead of myself.
Great. So I really appreciate the opportunity to really share what we're working on with all of you today. So what I'm going to talk to you about is a platform that we've built for fun and easy character creation. And really people love this idea of being able to possess their own unique characters, particularly when they've had a hand in creating it themselves. And toy makers and game makers and toy makers love the idea as well because it really gets their players much more invested in characters. But there's a problem with this, and the problem is that the more flexible and open-ended you make your character creation system, the more you run up against this problem called the paradox of choice. There's just way too many options. I've got 1,000 choices for the eye and another 1,000 for the body color, and it very quickly becomes overwhelming and in fact somewhat paralyzing. So we've taken a very different approach to character creation, one that really makes it as simple as asking the question, well, what if? What if I took this character that I think is really cool, and this character that's really cool, and I mix them together? What is that combination going to look like? It also starts to tap into those fun emotions of sort of anticipation and surprise about what's actually going to come out of it. And it becomes much more social, because now I'm thinking, wait, I saw that really cool gold wing, I wonder which one of my friends has it, so that I can combine with this new character that I've created. And what if we took it even one step further in sort of true transmedia fashion, and made it so we can not only use these characters in various online games and experiences, but also have them printed out as full-color 3D printed toys shipped straight to your door. So this is what we've built. We've built what we call the A-Life platform. A-Life standing for artificial life. And there's three key components to it. The first is the creator module. And this is where we actually accomplish that mashup of creatures. And it's very realistically modeled based off of genetics and artificial life, which is something I have a background in. And then, of course, we can populate those characters in multiple different environments. There's a database component that tracks any given character as it moves through these different worlds and experiences. So they have a persistence, they have a memory and a life of their own. And then there's a simulator component that we're still working on that really simulates behavior and emotion and personality. One other key thing I need to point out here is that the platform is completely pluggable. So we can import existing character IP as what we call blueprints, and then from those simple set of blueprints generate almost an infinite number of variations, a whole new species of characters based on that. Okay, so just to tell you a quick bit about the team, I've been passionate about artificial life for over 20 years now. I've also been through the startup thing as co-founder and CTO of Bano. Got a great team really working on this. Todd, who's been in character tech, heading character tech teams at ImageWorks and DreamWorks for a couple decades, and Beth and Jim, who a lot of you guys know well, are part of the team as well. Lots of great advisors. Okay, so what I wanted to do real quick here is show you a real simple example game that we've built on top of the platform. Keep in mind this is just an example, the characters are examples, but it'll give you a bit of a sense of how the platform actually works. So the game is called New World Adventures. When I log in, the first thing you see is my collection of creatures. These are the creatures that are all uniquely my own and bred. Nobody else has any creatures like these. And there's trillions of possibilities. Actually, that's a pretty big underestimate. I can pick any two creatures that I think are sort of cool and say, well, what if? What would it look like if I combine these together? Get a little egg, and then a few seconds later, you see the kid that comes out. And you can actually do a deep dive for fun and sort of look at its genetics, its DNA strand, how that translates into alleles. Again, all very realistically modeled and simulated, so kind of bringing together artificial life and character tech.
Can you read that?
Yeah, it's actually wrong. So you can actually also play with these characters. Again, an example game, we put together a simple Pokemon-style battle game where every aspect of how the creature interacts in the battle is genetically determined again. So what type of attack it has, what's its strength and agility and magic score, so forth and so on. And I actually have a demo live if anybody wants to come up after, and I can also show you some of the 3D prints of these characters that you're seeing up here. So to talk just a brief bit about business model here, I mentioned that the platform's pluggable, so obviously we're pursuing a licensing model or early discussions with kind of toy companies, high-level studios. Actually, we have our first meeting with Hasbro on Wednesday. But there's really a broader vision behind this as well, where we own not only the technology platform, but also start to build our own really character universe, and even start to open up and crowdsource those origin models and blueprints into that universe. And we really think that that sort of has even broader opportunity as ideally then third-party ecosystems build up around it, and we take a piece of that revenue. So that's the broader vision of MSAL Creations. That's it. Thank you.
Do you have one? All right. I think you did a great job fleshing out the whole ecosystem and this kind of long-term vision, and it looks really cool. I'd like to try it.
Oh, thanks.
I'm wondering what you think is the first step. What's the low-hanging fruit? Where can you get it out there and get people using it?
Yeah, great question. So what you saw was we actually built that demo and did start to get players interacting with it and playing with it, got great feedback. But the real first step is we're working now towards an iPhone app, very similar to the My Little Pony version that you saw up there, but with our own character sets, looking to launch that app kind of at the end of the summer and start to get some real metrics, lots of players. And then it becomes a great way of sort of going to the Hasbros and so forth and say, hey, look, we just want to skin it now with your character IP.
How have you tested it?
So right now what we've done is, and it's just the very beginnings of testing, but we have the game that's playable, we kind of put it out in front of kids, and frankly it's just kind of scratching the surface. I wanted to make sure we weren't barking up the wrong tree here, so it wasn't fully instrumented yet with analytics, but we have kind of anecdotally looked, and I got one kid that came back pretty much every few days and played for an hour and a half or more at a time. So getting some good initial feedback, but not until we have the real app out there are we going to really start collecting the data and testing those metrics, right? The K factors and the lifetime values and so forth.
Do you think about this as a white label platform at all? Or do you think it's really about sort of creating your own ecosystem? Because the complexity of what you're talking about seems pretty complicated. It's hard on the technology side and what you're doing, and then it's also hard in terms of the different forms it could take.
Yeah, so I'll give you the honest answer, which is we're not sure yet. So we're really starting to approach the studios and the game and the toy companies and seeing what their appetite is for kind of taking their IP and having us build a game or partnering with the studio to build a game around it. I think that's the more conservative kind of risk mitigation strategy. At the same time, I want to continue to put our own kind of character IP out there and test it. And who knows, we may get sort of a ground up hit on our hands. But that's the dream. But I think we're really planning towards the white label model.
Do you know by chance a guy named Stefano Corazza? He's a Stanford double PhD in biomechanics. He's got this whole motion capture studio at Stanford.
Oh, very cool.
And it's they're actually taking the whole idea was they're capturing human generated movement and then allowing him to apply them to rigs of different
Very cool.
It just feels like
now that you mention it, I think I have
it's
a long
like, oh my
about
God,
it. Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay, yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, it just strikes me that working with any of the brands that you're talking about is not they don't move in startup time.
Yes.
So that's sort of my big question is how do you get around that problem? Because Hasbro is great if you get distribution, but the truth of it is that they don't care about your funding status. They're going to do things on their own.
Yeah, that's right. And that's part of the reason why we're kind of going full steam ahead on building our own version of this at the same time. I mean, both to kind of have our dip our toe in the water, but also kind of get that sort of the risk in their eyes mitigated because we've got this thing already working. And I should mention everything is, because with the character tech piece, everything comes out fully rigged and animatable regardless of what your character is. So it's not just images, it's animation as well.
So I have a question about low-hanging fruit in terms of models. There are a lot of MMO games out there that allow users to develop their own particular characters, customize them, etc. Do you have the capacity to scrape, for lack of a better word, that content in and allow those MMO players to go out and print their own characters utilizing a local service bureau in 3D?
Yeah, so that's not too difficult to do, especially if they can export, like a Minecraft, for example, you can export your characters out. And there have actually been some companies spun up specifically doing just that, right? Mind Toys, you export your Minecraft character and print it. So definitely could do that. But I haven't really thought about the idea of sort of exporting those characters and then making them origins so that you can now kind of create any of a number of characters from it. So that's an interesting idea. Although we have talked, or haven't gotten there yet, but are sort of working on talking to Minecraft about putting characters in.
I would think the Warhammer world would be another awesome world
yeah,
for you,
absolutely.
obviously. And the other place I was thinking of was just machinima.
Yeah.
In terms of like a community of people who are rabid about, like, I suspect who demographically would fit well.
That's right.
TBD, but it might be a fun place to start.
Yeah, and we really think, I mean, again, for me, the passion is about artificial life, and part of that is the unpredictability of what's going into the system. And so, really opening this platform up so people can build things and put them in and then see what happens and how they evolve is a big part of what makes it exciting for me. Yeah, we haven't tried that yet. Definitely erred away from, this sort of very realistic looking people at this point, partly just because I found it a little bit creepy, but, I think, but definitely something to try out. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Justin.
Okay, now the final.
Ooh, what's going on?
New soundtrack.
Yeah, there you go.
Sound engineer.
All right, and do we have?
My name is Justin Oliphant, by the way, and that's my business partner Paul Garber at the back there.
So we lost the projector.
Projector.
I smash.
So we're here to actually show you guys iSmash SF. And actually, Paul, go ahead and show what we're working with here. It's a board game! Aha! Great. So, as you see, what we're working here with is iSmash SF, and iSmash SF is the smashing, fun board game where you can show your love for San Francisco by razing it to the ground as giant monsters. Let's see here. Oh, I'm gonna have you do this. So anyway, this is pretty much the board game. These are some of the characters. This gives you an idea of what we're working with here. And if you go ahead and go to the next one, Paul. We have a bunch of monsters, a bunch of characters. I'm going to first talk to you about the Transmedia component that we're working with, which is each of these monsters actually has their own background and storyline. And so if you actually take a look here, we can actually create origin stories and stories for each of the characters using different media. My background is as a filmmaker, but I've started getting more and more into the transmedia field. And with that, we started exploring different ways to tell the stories. So we try and find the right platforms to tell the stories that make sense for the characters. So the origin story could come out as a comic book, for example. Or some of our different characters we have, one is an old 8-bit video game. So instead of actually doing like a blog post or something like that, why not actually make the 8-bit video game that the character is based out of? Or, you know, one's a roller derby girl. The other one is a guy fighting for, he's a giant cyclops fighting for his freedom of speech by being naked. And so our thought was, it's like, well, with that, you know, what seems to be a good platform for that is actually using Twitter. And so using Twitter and Storify and being able to actually take that story and then like putting it in one place, we can tell, again, the stories for each of these monsters in their own separate space. And then on top of that, they will then battle it out in our actual board game itself. So what's great about this is that we also feel like we can actually expand the story world really well. So as you see, we have iSmash SF. But we certainly have hopes to do LA and New York and different cities around the world. And actually being able to take, I've always said that iSmash SF is my love poem to San Francisco. It's got all the things that I hate about it, as well as all the things that I love about it. And you're able to put that sort of humor and comedy into the monsters, into the cards, into the situation itself. But on top of that, it allows us to create monsters, create things that are fun and interesting, and you know, kind of just take it from there. So.
All right, let's talk a little bit about our customers. So who's aware of the enormous resurgence of board games right now? Just show of hands. It's huge, it's absolutely huge. So this is BoardGameGeek.com. As of August 2011, had about 400,000 users. I'm sure it's exploded since then. This is Tabletop. This is Will Wheaton's YouTube channel. Currently has 475,000 subscribers roughly. So just an amazing following. It's only getting bigger. So we're looking at a couple different demographics. One is people who live in, work in, love San Francisco. And our age range for that is about 20 to 44. So we estimate roughly 370,000 20 to 44-year-olds living, working, and loving San Francisco. The other demographic is people who love monster movies. So we have some huge help with that coming up. A new Godzilla movie coming out, Legendary Pictures, the same people that do the Batman trilogies, the new Superman movie coming out. We have Pacific Rim, which actually starts out in San Francisco. $150 million budget, coming out July 11th, 2013. Now, this has also been called the golden age of board games. A couple different articles talking about the amazing spike recently. Over the last 10 years, board game sales are up 10 to 20% every year, year over year. So if we were to say 10 million sales in 2003, this is what the data would look like. Now this is rough, but If we put some real numbers on that, Kickstarter's funding of games looks about like this. So that's pretty good, but what's great is when you actually break it down, board and card games are getting the lion's share of that funding. Our overall requested funding is about $150,000 for the next 6 months to keep us going and get the game off the ground. And I'll hand it back.
Oh, great, thanks. We have a minute?
Yep.
Great. So anyway, and the great thing about all this is that, we're looking at the business model, but we're also looking at this idea of fun. We recently brought it over to Transmedia SF, or the Startup Weekend Transmedia. We won 2 awards with the Audience Award, as well as we won the prize of actual office space. So what's great is that we're getting really good, positive feedback from what we're doing. People are enjoying it. On top of that, it's given us opportunities to do game nights. So we did a game night recently over Twitter. People kind of invite us to come to their place. And what's wonderful about that is, again, you get that sort of first-hand feedback that people are having fun. People are sitting there actually like cheering and like screaming and like having a great time with each other, which is always, again, sort of a positive thing that we take away. And in the end, really, we feel like we have a pretty good business model going into this. We're looking into it. We're looking to figure out how can we expand it, and we feel really comfortable with it. And on top of that, it's just fun. At the end of the day, board games are about sitting down with somebody and actually having human-to-human interactions and being able to have fun. We're building whole worlds online. We're being able to connect all that, and we're looking at different ways in which to connect mobile devices, as well as different people and different communities to kind of engage in this. But at the end of the day, again, it's about fun. And that's what we're really trying to look at. So that's I Smash SF.
Since you're the last presenter, afterwards, just drop the mic and walk off the stage.
Yeah!
Well, but thanks.
Are you crowdsourcing any of the game stuff? Any pieces of it? I was trying to catch that in the presentation. I might have missed it.
So
they think the characters are crowdsourced, or the?
Well, the game itself, first of all, what we're looking at is actually trying to build a community first. So we're trying to get it out there, we're trying to get people to talk about it. So it's not like we're just like blindly just like, somebody fund us. But number one, we're trying to build that and trying to get that like primary platform as I Smash SF. And then once we have that, then opening it up to actual crowdfunding and getting people to invest into it.
Then as for the funding side, but the content side?
So then as for the monsters, the intention is that with that, we're also trying to give, it's like an American Idol competition where people can pick and choose which monsters that they want in the game. And then hopefully, as you keep going down, people can create their own monsters with their own backstories. We have different ways in which we want to engage our community to actually, bring them into the canon, essentially, of our world. Does that help?
Even new cities?
Oh, yeah.
So in terms of so you guys mentioned your roadmap. I was just curious about if you thought about opening it up for the guy in Atlanta who's just like really pissed off that why isn't he represented?
Absolutely.
In your world, or is that too far? Is that like too much control over the platform?
Well, I think it's not necessarily. I think for us, our intention is to control the cities itself. So giving people the opportunity to play in the cities that we go through, because a lot of it is from our end, making sure that the game design works. We've spent months designing this and making sure that it's balanced. And that's not saying that other people wouldn't necessarily be able to do that, but our hope is to actually build a community where people can share their own homemade boards or their own homemade rules. And so on our website, that's where we're trying to encourage people to actually, engage with each other and through their own creations.
We're also taking a lot of suggestions about the map, for example. I'm from the East Bay. I don't know San Francisco as well as everybody here, so we've asked our community a lot, like, hey, I don't know anything cool in Cow Hollow, and I need to draw something in this part of the map. What is there that you love? What's important to you? Maybe not the big tourist attractions, but what's important to the real citizens there? And I think that's the way we're engaging on the side of the board.
I think you need to get together with Scott and make some really new launches.
Yeah. We loved watching that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Very cool.
All right. Thank you so much.
We'll have the prototype in the back, so if at any point you guys want to play it, you want to see it, anyone is more than welcome to come by and chat with us a little bit more about it. So
yeah, let's smash some stuff.
Yep.
I'd like to thank all the presenting companies. If you've ever done this before, it's not easy. So I want to give everybody who presented a round of applause. So this is the time of the evening that we open it up for questions in the audience. So I'm sure there's questions out here. If there's anyone who'd like to Ask anybody in either the presenting companies or on the panel. Let us know. Okay, over here.
I have a question for the microphone. Hi, this is a question, actually, or this is for the documentary maker. I'm wondering, what specifically are you looking to raise money for, other than to develop the app?
Well, when you're raising money for outreach and engagement, the interactive piece is just one part of the infrastructure, right? So we have to pay for executing on the campaign around the campaign. So I think that part of what it's interesting, a lot of what folks here are talking tonight is that sort of offline community building component that is so essential to making a transmedia experiment really work. So what we'll do is we'll execute on a community screening strategy across the nation. Hopefully in partnership with ITBS and PBS. So the film airs, but it also can go into communities, and that is a labor-intensive piece that requires a budget. Is very fundable through the not-for-profit sort of foundation-friendly, sponsor-friendly, grant-friendly model that we all know so well. But I think that that's really doable in terms of the piece that I know how to do. I think the design and build of the of the tool, which the one we're thinking about building on Facebook, that might have an iPhone app and that might have an iPad app, that's the part that to me is how will that scale and how will that pay for itself? And so I think that's why we wanted to sort of come into this space and begin to have conversations with technologists, so we can begin to explore how that can continue to scale.
Great. Jen, thank you.
Hi, I'd like to direct this mainly to Sad and the other people on the panel. What if we have an idea, a cost-related business plan, other material? How do we basically contact you and present it to you? Sad, you're on.
Well, all of our contact information is probably public knowledge, and it's very findable. Having said that, I think there's always this question of what is the best way to get in contact with people. I always treat it like a sales process, right? So referrals always help. Just imagine sort of a big stack of stuff and how you get on top of that stack. It's always helpful to go through people who know you and who know that other person. So in my case, I have tons of portfolio companies out there and CEOs out there, and if they tell me, Saad, this is badass, you have to pay attention, I drop everything else and that's what I do. And so I think figuring that out for everybody that you want to talk to, and I don't want to speak for other people here, is probably a good way to start. Yeah, I'll shut up for a second.
I know for me it's, what are you bringing to the table that's really different from what I've seen already? And don't ask for something right away. Put forth your value first without asking for dollars or help with this or that. Make it interesting. And for me, as there is so much out there, so if you can't verbalize why you're special and different, don't expect me to try to figure it out.
So the first thing I'll say is you don't want to contact us, actually. There's so many great ways today to actually find funding instead of going up to the moat of the castle and trying to scale that. Crowdsourcing, crowdfunding is a new vision. I mean, when we talk about our industry is in as much change and transition as any industry ever was. And there's so many great ways today to get funded. There are angel groups, there are angels right here that you can see it in action. There's crowdfunding, we've heard about people doing that. And there's aggregated angel groups, and they're really throughout this country, not only in SF, but right here, we're the hotbed. And you're going to, I think, be able to connect with a lot of different people instead of trying to hit this really tiny little target, which is us. And then if you got to remember, we have our own challenges, which is that, we don't just sit on a check, but we are responsible for our investors. So, the hurdle is not just getting to us, but then it's getting through us and making sense so it'll make sense with us. And so at the end of the day, there's so many other great opportunities that we're now just one little piece, where 10 years ago, that was what you had to do, was come to Silicon Valley, come up to Sand Hill Road, get on one knee and beg. And today you don't have to do that. Today you can get out on the internet, you can find a bunch of crowdsourcing websites, you can find a bunch of angel organizations, you can really network within that and really raise a lot of a lot of dollars, and then determine if we're even necessary. Because you don't know if you really want to deal with us.
I agree.
When it comes to the pitch specifically, what would you say is the top one factor or quality that you look for in that pitch?
It just needs to be super relevant. I mean, you know, a really famous venture capitalist, Jean-Louis Gasset, who was president of Apple in the past, and a mentor of mine once said, if you can tell the story in the least possible amount of slides. If you could come and pitch me and sell me with one slide, you're the best person ever. In a perfect world, you do it in, you know, 10 slides, 12 slides, 15. And really, the whole concept of a pitch is to just get the next pitch. So, you know, your whole concept of coming to see us is to engage us enough to be able to take the next meeting. Because then we're going to ask you a bunch of really hard questions. You're going to need like 1,000 slides. It's going to be hell. But that first pitch is just getting us engaged, making us believe that it's doable.
Yeah, I almost don't even pay attention to the pitch. To me, it's just about getting to know the people. And so I use that opportunity to, it's really about, when someone sends me a plan, I don't even look at the plan, I look at the bios and try to get a sense of like who's the person behind this. And then I go back and figure out if they match up. So I think use it as an opportunity to brag about yourself. Kind of make yourself seem badass, because everyone is, right, in some ways. And to me, that's sort of how I view the world. Is kind of, I view my job as like an excuse to build my distributed dream team. You know, and then with our powers combined, one day we will do something incredibly awesome. And so, you know, I have companies, for instance, like I mentioned before, I literally started an entity called Placeholder Name, which is where I park really awesome people who I have no idea what we're going to do with. And I tell my partners that, look, they may pitch us a plan, the one thing I can promise you is they're not going to do that. They're going to do something else. I have no idea what it is, but the bet is on the people. It's easier to raise capital than it is to find good people. And so if that's the case, then you know, people are your first principles.
Just one, actually, probably both. I read an article recently that said treat your first pitch like a first date. You know, if you walk in there saying I'm looking to get married and have 4 kids, and you know, it's not going to go over well. So I think that's goes on to what they're saying is, you know, get the idea out there, make yourself interesting, show what you've got, and then, you know, go into the nitty-gritty details later on.
Great. Great. Any other questions? No? All right. Sorry, I'm right there. You're right. Okay, my question was for you.
Oh, great.
So I was wondering if you had considered other revenue models like advertisers, you know, Bacardi comes to mind, etc. And then, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Thank you. So.
Oh, I don't. Your exit strategy, like who do you want to buy you?
Okay, those are very good questions. So we are really focused right now on, you know, one primary revenue model, which is, you know, taking a booking fee for every transaction that takes place through our site. But we've recently been approached by a couple brands that are pretty interested in being major sponsors, for instance. And like, I love the idea, for instance, of doing a house concert, a national house concert tour that's powered by a really relevant, good brand. So that's absolutely something we're thinking about. And you know, I'd say right now we're not looking at you know, to get acquired right now. We're looking to really build up our team, work with really relevant, amazing partners, and essentially build out a brand new model for independent positions.
That's the right answer to that question, by the way. If you ever answer that question as, you know, Microsoft's going to buy me or something, you actually lose credibility. The right answer is, I'm building this because this is what I love to do. If you have an offer, let me know about it, I'll look at it. But the reality is that you don't start a company with that in mind, or certainly you don't talk about it, because it's almost never like if you were to come to me and say that, you know, I'm trying to do this and we're going to sell it in 5 years and it's going to be these guys, like no one would take you seriously.
We always say in our firm that basically if you have blinders on and you're running as fast as you can at the goal line, someone's going to take you out. If you do anything but that, forget about it. All of it.
All right, I'd like to thank our panelists as well tonight. Give a big round of applause.
I'd like to thank Jim and the rest of the team that helped to put together the pitches for tonight and the curating committee that worked with all of the teams. One of the things that I want to say is my undergrad degree is in filmmaking, and film and creative people are notoriously bad business people. And we talk about not-for-profit, and we talk about raising the money and then doing the project and not thinking about the capital expense or the ROI afterwards. And so what we're looking to do with these types of events is to get us to start to think about what is the return on investment. And it doesn't have to be a fully standalone company where I'm going to go IPO or I'm going to get acquired. Hollywood has proven to us that films make money. And these projects can come together for 3 and 5 years and make a significant return for the people that invest in them. So, you know, I implore all of us to start thinking about how we might be doing that. We have the attention and the interest of such fabulous panelists like those that we have, that we've been graced with tonight. And so, you know, when you listen to the pitches and when you're thinking about preparing your own pitches, think about how can I bring value to these folks, and what is it that I'm able to give to them. So I want to thank them again, and Jim and Maya and the rest of the team for putting this together. Thank you. And then just before we wrap, and there's more pizza and beer and drinks, and you can talk to everybody that's been on stage, and I know I want to talk to the I Smash SF. I want to know what your digital strategy is. Where's the iPad game, man? You know? They're in Twitter, they're going to be in Zynga, you got to talk to these guys. So we'll all be around, but before, we've got some announcements from our community, and Susan, you're up. So actually, the Producers Guild of America is one of our partners that we work with, and Susan is their representative.
Yes. Hi, I am part of the Producers Guild of America Northwest chapter. And a lot of people in this room, you're probably eligible to join the Producers Guild and you don't know it. If you work in new media, okay. I actually put up here some of the recognized new media platforms are broadband, DVD, video games, mobile, digital, visual effects, animation, interactive TV, and special venue events. If you've actually produced something on a national or international level that has wide distribution, this is reading out, you actually are probably eligible to join, and we actually are trying to get more members in new media. So come and talk to me, or you can send me an email. It's Susan, S-U-S-A-N, at PGANW, so PGA Northwest, but just initials.org. But you can come talk to me. I'm always at the, yes. Hi, and Goldie's a member of the Producers Guild too.
I'm a member of the new media group, so feel free to talk to Susan or myself. But I did want to say that we are actually discounting membership enrollment
for the next week.
For the next week. So join, and it's $25 off. But we're all starting projects, I'm sure. So $25 is $25.
It is a guild, so there is a initiation fee to it, but it's worth it because you get so many free movies. You get the Academy screeners. So I don't pay for movies. I get all those movies delivered to my door every year. Okay. There's also a bunch of networking events. We had a really fun bowling party last month, and I don't know. It's a really good guild to be a part of if you're a member. So come talk to me. Great. Next slide. I have 2 slides. Okay, and also I am teaching a workshop in March 19th. It will be actually back here. The Eventbrite is going live tomorrow. This is a continuance of workshop I taught for Startup Weekend about how to create a transmedia project, and we had a really great 2-hour workshop. I see some people who were at the workshop. And we're going to teach it again. So check out the Eventbrite if you want to learn more about transmedia projects. Okay, thanks. Great.
And more workshops on the 18th, right here as well. We're going to do one on licensing. You see, I've licensed some of the big brands. It's kind of difficult if you're not Electronic Arts and you don't have $1 million check. I'm sure there's probably 1 or 2 of you in the audience that would love to license Mickey Mouse or SpongeBob and The Simpsons, so come and find out all about it. It's a 3-hour workshop, And we're also going to do outbound licensing. So you have one of your own characters, a brown bear or a little cat, that you'd like to license to PBS. Bring those projects along with you as well. And we'll be actually looking at those and going over the ideas that you have and seeing if they're appropriate either to be licensed to others or for you to be someone who can license. So please join us on the 18th.
Great. Thank you, Jim. We're always looking for folks to join our team and volunteer with us. So come and see Maya, me, Jim, or anybody else that's involved in Transmedia SF, and there's a bunch of us in the room. Maya, can you hit the next one? And I also wanted to make a final announcement for tonight. We're having, instead of our normal Monday night panel for our March event, we're doing a party in partnership with Swissnex. They are one of our great partners that we love working with. And we're lucky to have a special keynote with Chuck Eiler. Chuck began his career in animation making Mighty Mouse. He's been at this for a while. He's won a number of Academy Awards for films like Inner Space and Young Sherlock Holmes. He also was the head director for EA's The Sims and has won some awards for that work as well. He's currently at Playdom Disney as the head of art design and direction there. And Chuck and I will be talking about the future of entertainment as we enter this wild new multi-screen transmedia world. So come and join us on March the 28th. The 28th fell off the slide, but it is Thursday, March the 28th, and this is actually a free event. We have a full sponsorship, so we hope to see you all there, and come and party with us for GDC. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being with us tonight. There's more drink, and please mingle amongst yourselves.
Thanks.